Well, I think it's in general, I think when you're sort of dealing with a lot of choices that you have, as if you're a composer or an improviser, that sometimes you take the choice that you can sort of predict what's going to happen. But it's also important to take time to explore the choice that maybe could be a dead end, but also could open up into something new. And a lot of times those things where you're just sort of not really sure where you're going, but you're working through it, you're not sure, and then you sort of have a moment of clarity where you realize, okay, oh, I see this is what I should try to do. That often comes after a lot of frustration, after a lot of sort of working and trying it again and starting again. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just sort of have a eureka moment and you're like, whoa, I think I can do that. But often it comes from being frustrated here, frustrated there, trying it, and then you realize, wait a minute, if I do it this way, then maybe. And of course, when you're improvising, that has to be split second. So that's the excitement in that. If you're composing, then you can take a lot more time to think about it. You have a lot of choices, and you try not to be paralyzed by all those choices. You say, okay, I'm going to make a decision here. I realize it's going to make the next decision, and the next decision will sort of flow from that. And then sometimes you say, wait a minute, let me come back a couple of things and try it another way. It's always the feeling of you have to look at it from a sort of a big point of view. You know, what's the point that you're trying to get? But then on a really specific level, how do you get to that? How do you set that up? How do you make that seem natural? How do you make that seem inevitable in a piece of music? You know, it's a very deep thing because it's not so easy to predict. When somebody's written a great piece of music and everybody studies it and said, oh, of course, this is what he or she did, it's not inevitable. It didn't exist before that person did it, but then once that form is in there and it gets locked in your brain, oh, of course, that's the way it has to be. It's the result of a lot of thinking, of a lot of choices, and a lot of reflection.